In this video, I'm going to give you some ideas for gifts that you can buy for somebody who's interested in 3D printing. If someone has sent you this video, then maybe take the hint and think about buying something that I'm about to talk about. There are gifts here to suit every budget and handy links in the description below should you decide to buy anything. I've divided the video up into 3 sections, so if you want, you can skip to the part that suits your budget. Make sure you watch all the way to the end though, because the last couple of items are guaranteed to put you in the good books of that person in your life who likes to print little pieces of plastic like me. First, let's start with the big stuff. If you're really looking to impress or just want to splash out this year, then in the $100 plus range, we have the printers themselves. If the person you're buying for doesn't already have a 3D printer and doesn't know what they want, then I'll quickly run you through a few options. 3D printers come in all different shapes and sizes, but to keep it simple, first try and find out what they want to print. If they want to make small, intricately detailed models for something like tabletop gaming, then they're going to want a Resin 3D printer. I have an Anycubic Mono X and I love it. There are 3 different models that I'd advise looking at in the Mono X range. The smallest is the least expensive and the biggest is the most expensive. All of them will be capable of doing everything they want, so only go for the bigger one if you know that they want to print bigger things. If you think they'd be more interested in printing bigger, more colourful or stronger things, then they're probably better off with what's known as an FDM 3D printer. I have quite a few different models of FDM machines, and if I could only choose one as a good all-round option, I'd go for the Artillery Sidewinder X2. This is a great value 3D printer that needs very little setup and can print small things like these tiny RC parts all the way up to huge vases, all of them with great detail. I've included some other options if you're looking to buy for kids or if space is an issue, but I won't go into all the details here. If the person you're buying for already has a 3D printer, then there are still some higher value items that they will want. If they already have a Resin 3D printer that would look a little bit like this, then if they don't already have one, a wash and cure machine would be a great present. This machine takes virtually all of the messy part of Resin 3D printing and does it all for you. If instead they have an FDM 3D printer that will look a little bit like one of these, then the Creality Sonic Pad could be a great buy. In basic terms, this is like a supercharger for a 3D printer. It'll give it a load of extra processing power and a load of bells and whistles that us 3D printing nerds like to play with. In the $50 to $100 range, I would start by recommending a Raspberry Pi and the associated accessories. However, there's a global shortage of these little computers at the moment and you'll struggle to buy one. If you can find a Raspberry Pi version 3 or version 4, then in a way these are like lower cost versions of the Sonic Pad I just mentioned. They can be plugged into an FDM 3D printer to add a load of functionality. If you can't find a Raspberry Pi, or if you don't think the person you're buying for would be comfortable with what is a much more DIY route, then this little device could be a good option. It's called the Beagleprint and is a camera that you can use to monitor your 3D printer from anywhere in the world. Not only can you watch the print running, but you can control the printer itself through an app on your phone. If that special someone has a Resin 3D printer, then an Ultrasonic Cleaner could be a good lower value alternative to that wash and cure machine. This will help with cleaning parts and take out some of that tedious nature associated with Resin 3D printing. For a slightly more unconventional option, you could consider buying a subscription to their favourite creators' Patreon. Many creators offer additional content, files to print and other goodies if you sign up to the subscription-based service. A year's Patreon membership could be a great gift if you know that there's a creator they particularly like. There are also a huge number of other items in this price bracket, but a little bit of knowledge about the 3D printer that they have would be needed to make sure you get the right thing. If you're feeling brave, then a flexible PEI magnetic bed is a great upgrade over many of the standard beds. Likewise, bed probes like a BL or CR Touch could be a great addition too. The under $50 range is probably where you'll find the easiest choices for gifts. If the person you're buying for has a Resin 3D printer, buy them some Nitrile Gloves. We go through these like water and they will always get used. Also, silicone mats that are great for catching spills and protecting surfaces are great, along with a bulk supply of whatever cleaning solution they use. I use 91% IPA or denatured alcohol, but many people use 99% or something else entirely. No matter what type of 3D printing they do, the person you're buying for will use tools. The single most useful tool for a 3D printer owner is a set of Vernier Calipers. These are used for accurate measuring and come in 2 options, battery powered or manual. Either will do the job, but don't go for the cheapest options. A decent set and not particularly expensive, and it's a tool that you can get many years of use from. The set I use were my dad's, probably technically still are my dad's, and I think they were originally his dad's before him. Another universal tool for a 3D printer user is a good quality set of side cutters. Many 3D printers that you buy will come supplied with a cheap set, but again, this is a tool that could last many years if looked after. I'm still using a set that I bought at least 20 years ago. A nice set of needle files are extremely useful when cleaning up 3D prints, and if you're feeling particularly generous, a Dremel or other kind of rotary tool can save hours. If they have an FDM machine, then a good set of Allen keys or hex drivers will go down well, along with some feeler gauges or a nozzle spanner. The nozzle spanners are different between machines though, so you'd have to find out which size to buy first. For a resin printer, plastic razors, a UV curing torch, or small Tupperware containers are really useful. All of these are great gifts, but my #1 recommendation to make that 3D printer in your life happy is raw materials. For a resin printer, buy them resin. For an FDM printer, buy them filament. Once you already have a 3D printer, the biggest expense in the hobby is buying your raw materials. There are a huge range of things you can use, but trying them all would cost a fortune. Having some new filament or resin to try is a guaranteed way of making a 3D printer owner happy. If you want to surprise them with something cool, then for an FDM printer, play it safe and stick to PLA filament. PLA is the material that the filament's made from, and every FDM printer will be able to print with it. Just because we're sticking with one type of material doesn't mean we're limited on options though. PLA filament comes in almost limitless colour options, with silks and rainbow silks arguably the most impressive looking. You can get PLA, which is metal filled to make things look like copper, aluminium or steel, and you can even get filament that makes things look like wood. You can buy colour changing PLA, glittery PLA, strong PLA, flexible PLA, and even glow in the dark PLA. The options really are vast. The resin options aren't quite so plentiful, but you can still buy something that's a bit different. You could buy the least expensive standard resin, or you can buy clear, tough, and even flexible resin. You could buy a water washable resin, so there's no need to use those smelly chemicals, and you can even buy a ceramic filled resin. A lot of resin 3D prints are painted afterwards, so if you know that's very likely to happen, then just stick with the standard option. If you want to go a little flashier, then try a transparent colour. Prints made from this can look awesome. Don't forget that there are links in the description to everything I've mentioned, along with a few more options should you need them. If you have any other good suggestions for gifts for 3D printer owners, then drop them in the comments and I'll add them in the description. Check out this playlist if you want to learn more about 3D printing, or click here for another video you might like. Thanks for watching.